Intuitive Approach of Shankara's Vedanta by Sri D.B. GangoLLi. In this lecture series, we have already seen 8 sessions. Today's is the 9th session. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Dr. Krishnamurti Shastri, Dambe, Punacha, Bantwala Taluk, Dakshina Kannada Jille, Karnataka, Bharata. Division into Vidya and Avidya and Avidyakrita. This is the 5th section in this book. Question number 42. How is the deliberation on Adhyasa suitable for the determination of the Vedanta Siddhanta or Upanishadic spiritual teaching? Vedanta means Upanishads, which have the prime purport of propounding the Atmaikatva Vidya or the intuitive knowledge of the non-dualism of the self. Atmaikatva Vidya means the determination, conviction that Atman alone is the absolute, ultimate reality, Paramartha Satya. If it is reckoned that apart from the Atman there really exists Anatman, not self too, then such a determination cannot be arrived at. Therefore, since the whole of the Anatman is actually misconceived, it becomes quite a necessity to show or demonstrate that it is Anrita or false, unreal. Although Anatman is thus Anrita or a false appearance alone to those ignorant people who have not intuited or cognized the ultimate reality, that very Anatman appears as if it is real as well as the distinct characteristics, dharmas of the reality or entity of the self, Atmavastu, exist in it. Hence, once again it becomes quite a necessity to demonstrate that all that which appears as if it is all real is the result of misconception or wrong knowledge, mithyajnana. For that reason alone, Bhashyakara has written, Tamevam lakshanam adhyasam panditaha avidyeti manyante tadvivekena cha vastuswarupa avadharanam vidyam ahuhu tatra evam sati yatra yadadhyasaha tatkritena doshena gunena va anumatrena api sa na sambadhyate. The purport of this Bhashya sentence is, the purport of this Bhashya sentence is, Panditas, meaning Atmajnanis or realized souls, call this Adhyasa with such a Lakshana or distinctive characteristic to witness, on the one hand, superimposing Anatman on Atman and vice versa, and on the other hand, superimposing the distinctive characteristics of or qualities of Atman on Anatman and vice versa, by virtue of Bhranti or delusion, Avidya or ignorance, nescience. Quite different from this Adhyasa to determine their respective essential nature in S by means of intuitive discrimination. Intuitive discrimination based on separating Atman and Anatman in the manner such and such as this is the essence of being of the Atma Vastu and it is Satyam or absolutely real indeed, such and such as this is the essential nature of Anatman, though this appears as if it is really existing, it is not Satyam but Anrutam or false appearance indeed. Between that thing or phenomenon which is superimposed Adhyasa and that entity on which the former is superimposed Ashraya, the former is not different from the latter, is termed Vidya by those Pandits or Atmajnanis. Thus, Atman alone is the Paramartha Satya, all else is Andrita or false. And if we discern intuitively on the strength of this above mentioned definite and distinct viewpoint, then it flashes to our intellect the truth that by virtue of thus superimposing Anatman on Atman, no defect or blemish whatsoever occurs in or taints the latter. Neither by superimposing upon Anatman the essentially real nature of pure being consciousness of Atman and thereby merely misconceiving one as the other does Anatman acquire any real qualities or characteristics belonging to Atman. For Atman alone is the absolute transcendental reality or Paramartha Satyam, and at the same time all else Anatman as opposed to and other than Atman has been determined with the total unwavering, and unshakable conviction as not to exist at all in the form it appears. Here, in this context, the Bhashyakara has reiterated in a crystal clear manner the distinctive lakshanas of the Vidya as against avidya, as Vidya means the intuitive knowledge that Atman alone is the Paramartha Satyam, whereas avidya means mutual superimposition of identities between Paraspara, Tadatmya, Adhyasa, as well as mutual misconception of their respective qualities or characteristics, Paraspara, Dharma, Adhyasa. Therefore, those who decide the essential natures of Vidya and Avidya quite differently and contrarily to this teaching cannot at all be reckoned to be genuine followers of Sri Shankara's Siddhanta. Next, 43rd question. Can you dub even those who determine the Tattva on the strength of empirical valid means, Laukika Pramanas, or on the strength of Shastras, Shastradhara, as ignorant people, Avidyavantas? This objection has arisen because of an absence of the deliberation or discrimination of the difference between the Paramartha Drishti, the absolute reality's holistic viewpoint, and the Vyavahara Drishti, the empirical, parochial viewpoint of Pramatra or ego. The plenary intuitive knowledge as the viewpoint of the pure consciousness as the witness of the type, in the ultimate analysis, the really real Atma Tattva is non dual, unitary alone, is itself the absolutely real Vidya. When observing from the viewpoint of that Vidya, neither any Pramana Vyavahara whatsoever nor any Shastraik Vyavahara whatsoever exists or subsists at all, but exclusively within the realm or purview of the Vyavahara Drishti, which is truly a misconceived viewpoint bringing in its wake an apparent projection of duality. All Pramanas and Shastras are carrying out their respective functions indeed. In order to bring home this truth, the Shruti Upanishad is stating, Yatra hi dvaitamiva bhavati taditaraitaram pashyati taditaraitaram jighrati taditaraitaram rasayate taditaraitaram shrunoti taditaraitaram manute taditaraitaram sprishati taditaraitaram vijanati yatra tvasya sarvam atmaiva bhut tatkena kam pashyet tatkena kam jigret kena kam rasayet kena kam abhivadet kena kam शृणुयात् केन कं मन्वीत तत्केन कं स्पृशेत तत्केन कं विजानीयात्. बृहदारण्यकोपनिषत् 4:5-15. The literal meaning of this Upanishad sentence is, where there is duality appearing as if it exists, there one sees another thing, there one smells another thing, there one tastes another thing, there one speaks about another thing, there one listens to another thing, there one thinks about another thing, there one touches another thing, there one cognizes another thing. But to one, when everything exists as Atman, pure consciousness alone, there with what can he see what? There with what can he smell what? There with what can he taste what? There with what can he speak with, about what? There with what can he listen to what? There with what can he think about what? There with what can he touch what? There with what can he cognize what? This Upanishadic sentence has been repeatedly utilized as an illustration in different circumstances and contexts by Sri Shankara in order to drive home the teaching that Vyavahara or empirical transactions in general do not exist in essence in the absolute metaphysical sense. Thus, although in their workaday world people in general reckon within the empirical realm in the manner because Pramanas and Shastras are giving rise to or teaching the scientific or technical knowledge of their respective objects or topics as they are, that knowledge is Vidya. And further, whatever wrong knowledge or misconception that is falsified, Badhita by such Vidya is Avidya, is valid and proper alone. There is no hindrance or objection to accept to say or say that from the Paramartha Drishti or the witnessing consciousness, all this is Avidya Karta Vyavahara or empirical mundane transactions projected by knee sense alone. Avidya, knee sense. For this reason alone, Sri Shankara in this introductory Bhashya has written as follows: ತಮೇತಂ ಅವಿದ್ಯಾಖ್ಯಂ ಆತ್ಮಾನಾತ್ಮನೋ ಇತರೇತರಾಧ್ಯಾಸಂ ಪುರಸ್ಕೃತ್ಯ ಸರ್ವೇ ಪ್ರಮಾಣ ಪ್ರಮೇಯ ವ್ಯವಹಾರಾಃ ಲೌಕಿಕಾ ವೈದಿಕಾಶ್ಚ ಪ್ರವೃತ್ತಾಃ ಸರ್ವಾಣಿ ಚ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರಾಣಿ ವಿಧಿ ಪ್ರತಿಷೇಧ ಮೋಕ್ಷಪರಾಣಿ. ಮೀನಿಂಗ್, ಆಲ್ ದ ಲೌಕಿಕ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಂಪಿರಿಕಲ್, ಸೆಕ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೈದಿಕ, religious or spiritual transactions pertaining to and involving valid means of cognition and the object of cognition, sarve pramana prameya vyavaharaha, proceed only in the face of or on the fundamental basis of this anyonya adhyasa or mutual superimposition between atman and anatman, going by the name of avidya. Similarly, all the shastras which expound or enunciate injunctions, vidhis and prohibitions, nishedha. So, to enunciate or expound injunctions, vidhis and prohibitions, nishedha, as well as liberation, moksha, as their prime purport in the ultimate analysis, also proceed on the very basis of this avidya. The phrase proceed keeping in front or in the face of this avidya means proceed with the prime purport of engendering pramana jnana or consummate mature knowledge on the basis of valid means of cognition, after removing ajnana or non-comprehension or ignorance in the minds of those who have not been able to intuit or cognize the ultimate reality of Atman, which lurks in the realm of all transactions of the workaday world. Whether they are the valid means of cognition, pramanas, or the various scientific authoritative treatises, shastras, because of the reason that they proceed with the ultimate purport of teaching or expounding whatever tattvajnana, knowledge of an entity, their respective student or follower desires, it is to be understood that they will certainly deliver the goods, so to speak, and help attain the immaculate knowledge of their study, and following their guidance sincerely, the students will be feeling in the manner we are jijnasus or people desirous of knowing or pursuing this profound reality, and we must at all costs cognize this reality of Atman, Brahman. But in the case of those scholars and logicians referred to in the question, though they are all jijnasus because they have not been able to intuit the ultimate reality of the pure being consciousness of Atman, in the final analysis they are to be reckoned as avidyavantas alone. So, this ends the 43rd question. Next, 44th question we shall continue in the next session. So, this ends the 9th session in intuitive approach of Shankara's Vedanta by Sri D.B. GangoLLi. ಹರೇ ರಾಮ. ಶ್ರೀ ಶಂಕರಾರ್ಪಿತಮಸ್ತು. ಶ್ರೀ ಶ್ರೀ ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದೇಂದ್ರ ಸರಸ್ವತಿ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದ ಅರ್ಪಿತಮಸ್ತು. ಶ್ರೀ ಗಂಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಡಿ.ಬಿ. ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದ ಅರ್ಪಿತಮಸ್ತು. ಸರ್ವೇ ಜನಾ ಸುಖಿನೋ ಭವಂತು. ಲೋಕಾಃ ಸಮಸ್ತಾಃ ಸುಖಿನೋ ಭವಂತು. ಬ್ರಹ್ಮಾರ್ಪಣಮಸ್ತು. ಓಂ ತತ್ಸತ್.